You're watching the PoliticIt podcast.
Good evening. Welcome to the PoliticIt podcast. I'm Senator John Johnson, and tonight we've got Jennie Taylor with us.
Hey, Senator. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, so nice to have you. I've wanted to have you on for quite a while because people need to know the story of the foundation, right? And people need to learn a little bit more about you and your role in all of this. So let's talk about you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. I go a lot of places and it's kind of always the question, who are you and why are you here? And I think if you were to ask who am I and why I'm here, I would say, my name's Jennie Taylor and I'm here because 22 years ago I met, fell in love with, and married a man who went away to war several times and didn't make it back alive. And that might be oversimplifying it, but that's really how I end up on podcasts or speaking stages or wherever I am. My husband was killed in Afghanistan in November of 2018. We have 7 little children. At the time, our youngest was almost 1, and then up from there up to the age of 13. And he died in November. I'd already planned his following birthday because it was his 40th birthday, would have been. And so when that 40th birthday rolled around and he was no longer with us, there was just this heaviness in the air of, do we just pretend it's not his birthday? I mean, you can't pretend it's not his birthday. How do you celebrate a birthday for someone not here? He was born on the July 6th, so very close to America's birthday, very patriotic, grew up very patriotic home. So we celebrated the birthday anyway. On his 40th birthday, 9 months after he was killed, we launched the Major Brent Taylor Foundation. And the only reason we really did it as a foundation was we were trying to raise money for scholarships in his name. He was a student at BYU and also the University of Utah. And I had a businesswoman friend who said, hey, if you want donations, people will give more if they can get a tax write-off for it. Okay, so really there never was a business plan. There never was a strategy. There never was we could do this as a foundation. We were acting out of the hurt and the grief and the desire to honor his memory and raise some money for some scholarships. So fast forward, we have endowed scholarships at the University of Utah and BYU, where Brent was a student. We have a scholarship at Utah State, where I did my master's degree and where I teach as an adjunct professor. And we also have an endowed scholarship at Weber State, which is just the community, the Ogden area where Brent served as mayor. So we have these scholarships. The first year or two went by in a blur. He died in 19 was just cameras and ceremonies and everyone wanting to see the story and tell the story and hear the story. 2020, of course, pandemic. By the time we got to 2021, I was exhausted, to say the least. I have all these little kids that are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, by that point. And trying to think, what are we doing? I don't have a business background. We don't have a business plan, but we could feel something. We were able to go into communities and share patriotism. And I'd get a chance to share our story, my story as a family, as a spouse of a military person. And I noticed it really was resonating with people because it wasn't my story. It's not the Brent Taylor story that resonates so well with people. It's the story of the American soldier. It's the story of the military men and women in uniform who are willing to go into harm's way to keep us safe and free. And then he had this unique crossover of being a military person who was an elected official, who happened to be a father with 7 kids, and he's reported to be the first sitting politician killed in action since the Civil War. So it was almost the perfect storm to give it a platform. But again, what I found is that I told his story and our story, we just became representative of the hundreds of thousands of stories like ours. Other men and women across generations who put on that uniform. So fast forward to January of 2021, I've had speaking opportunities and been invited to the White House and really been able to give a voice to the price of freedom and represent that. And I sat down on my bed. I can still picture myself with my planner. It's January of 2021. I've been underwater for what feels like the better part of 3 years, trying to make a plan. Now what? I don't know. So I looked at my calendar, and as I looked through the calendar for 2021, I got to September and realized it would be the 20th anniversary since 9/11, since those terrorist attacks. And so immediately I picked up the phone and called the Weber County Sheriff, my good friend Ryan Arbon. I said, Sheriff, is Weber County, Utah doing anything in honor of September 11th this year? It will be the 20th anniversary. He said, oh, no, I don't know. I can check with my police officers and firefighters. That felt like a natural place to start. He said, not that I know of, we should do something. I thought we should do something. And so because the COVID pandemic was still kind of back and forth at that time, there was a monthly meeting between the county mayors, the mayors in the county commissioners, and the health department. And it was a Zoom meeting. And so Sheriff Arbonne made a couple phone calls and got me a quick minute during that meeting to give a pitch to the county leaders, my home county of Weber in the Ogden area, and say, hey, we want to do something. So I gave him this big pitch, talked about what 9/11 was. We all remember where we were. I remember being out of the country on September 11th, 2001. I was a missionary for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I remember hearing about it from one of our mission leaders.
Where were you at?
I was in Chile, Santiago, Chile, out of the country. And I remember feeling like I'd missed something so important. I mean, I'd been a patriot from a young age. I was an American history teacher. I loved this country with all of my being. I missed 9/11 and I missed the Salt Lake Olympics. And I remember as a young adult feeling like I just missed that real pivotal day in my generation's time to understand what freedom's all about. That's what I thought in 2001. Fast forward to 2020 or 2011. 2011 was 10 years since 9/11. At that time, I had 4 kids, and my husband was deployed for the 3rd time to a combat zone. I remember waking up on September 11th, 2011, thinking, oh, maybe I didn't miss much after all. Maybe this pivotal day of September 11, 2001 is a part of my life, even though I wasn't there for it. Fast forward 10 more years. That's where we get to that 20th anniversary. September 11th, 2021. 20 years since that fateful day on a Tuesday morning in New York City. And by then it's already been 3 years since my husband was killed, fighting in the global war on terrorism that largely began that Tuesday morning.
Wow.
So that's kind of the backstory.
So all of that really fits together well. You know, Jenny, let's stop for a second because I want to go on with the 9/11 because I think that's going to be a major focus that we want to talk about because I think it's such an outstanding event. But you know, I just was thinking as you were going through your story that we have a lot of rancor.
Yes, we do.
And I imagine that you get some pushback from people who say, you know, Jennie Taylor's out there doing this and it's all about her and you know, and I imagine that's very frustrating.
Yeah, it hurts. Nothing hurts more than having your integrity questioned, except for maybe having the integrity of your deceased soldier husband questioned. I've heard all kinds of things from people who I hope just maybe they misunderstand, but there can be some very hurtful things said, questioning why I'm doing this, why did Brent ever serve, people who think he only was ever in the military for the limelight or to try to have political gain, people who question what I'm doing, that I'm just out there trying to milk the generosity of America to get more free things for me and my kids, and that hurts. It hurts to have something so personal and so tragic, literally the loss of my husband and the father of my 7 children, and then have that all questioned. I'll tell you, when he died, there was a couple of choices I could have made. One is what a lot of people in a similar situation do, and that's I could have just shut the door. Go home, stay away, I'm gonna block out the windows, I'm gonna go into hiding, I'm gonna sit with my 7 children and cry. And that's not to say we didn't do that, but there was something in me that felt called to give a voice to a cause greater than my own. Cause greater than Brent's. And I know we have been given incredible generosity. I mean, people are well aware, an organization out of New York, Tunnel to Towers, paid off my home mortgage. A few years later, a local home builder helped me build a brand new house for half price. We've been invited to ceremonies at the White House. I participate in things in the nation's capital on a regular basis. Now, you could say all of that is self-serving. I would say it's all. I would say it's all exhausting. I would say it's all exhausting. Now you go talk to my kids about what's it like to live in a fishbowl. I've talked to other military survivors who I think sometimes they're jealous of, or they wish they had the limelight or the stories told. And I'll tell them right now, I can call every reporter in the state of Utah. They'll come to your house too. Do you want them? Do you want them to come follow your kids around right after your husband dies? Do you want every camera in America
because
on
they
you?
will be there.
Sure. Do you want every camera in America on you at your husband's funeral? Now, I remember John speaking to the mortuary and the military public affairs during the services, about the services for Brent's burial. And they said they can tell all of the cameras to only go to the back. They could tell every camera has to be behind me and the kids. They can't show me and the kids. And I appreciate that. That was a beautiful offer. And I remember there was something in me that thought, but then America will never know what it really looks like. Not what I look like, not what my 7 children look like, but what a grieving widow looks like. What children mourning the loss of their soldier father looks like. Before I was ever a public speaker or even a mom or a wife, I taught American history. I love this country and the stories that have made us who we are. And I think if anything in America today, we're missing telling the stories, the true stories, the depth of the stories. And guess what's a deep, deep story, John? Freedom isn't free. It's not a slogan. It's not vinyl on my wall in the 90s, not an Americana decor bathroom. It's my dead husband and my 7 kids who only have me for the rest of their lives. That isn't about me, and it's not about Brent, and it's not even about our war. It's about the history of America. Here we are celebrating 250 years, America 250. Do you know how much blood has been shed in those 250 years? Do you know how many widows have sat by a casket and been given a triangle folded flag? Do you know how many children have lost a father or a mother? I do. I can tell you that story. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, and certainly not for personal gain. I've exhausted myself in this work, but I've done it because I know Brent and I are part, a very, very small part of a very big, beautiful, messy picture that is the American dream. And that freedom isn't free. And life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are only possible because of death of those willing to die for us. So when people question why I do or say or am so public, I just wish they'd give me a few minutes to explain. It's not me your heart aches for. It's the American widow your heart aches for. It's not my children that you cringe when you think of all that they've lost out from. It's every fatherless child in this country. And it's not Brent, the mayor, the major. It's the American serviceman or woman. That's why your heart wants to help me. That's why your heart wants to bring a casserole to me. That's why those cameras wanted to look at me. It was never me. It's never been me. But it is a story. And it's a story so big and so deep and so important, I feel compelled to tell it. And if it's my face telling it, then I guess I'm that poster child. But not for a second would I ever presume it's my story. Brent and I and our 7 children are now a part of the American story. One I'm really proud of, and one I hope to die defending.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about the 9/11.
Okay, it's going to be great. Okay. Thanks, John.
Tired of media bias? Frustrated by political noise? PoliticIt.com cuts through the clutter, giving you real facts, clear analysis, and unbiased insight on the issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay empowered. Whether it's elections, policy changes, or breaking news, we've got you covered. No spin, no agendas, just truth you can trust. Visit PoliticIt.com today, because informed citizens shape the future. PoliticIt.com, where politics meets clarity.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. Of course, we've got Jennie Taylor with us, but we've also brought Johnny Ferry in. And this ties back to what we were talking about with the 9/11. And we can't tell the 9/11 story without Johnny.
And I don't...
So let's talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
Johnny, just so people know who you are.
Well, I think we should start off here. And those who will remember from years past, John and I ran for office at the same time. And this is the first time, I think, in the camera, we're just like, we're right here, and we have we have love for each other. And it's been an awesome experience to watch John in this role as representing our area. And as a supporter and a fan of that, I just want to express appreciation for what you have done over the past 4+ years now, and in your second term as our local senator.
Thank you.
I have to go back. So the story of the 9/11 exhibit the event that we now do, goes back, actually, I think it has its roots for me in that campaign. On election night, I sat back and I had to evaluate, like anyone does when they get done with their running for office. You
Especially
evaluate.
an office you were supposed to win,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
Kind of a surprising loss.
You step back and you say, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I have done different? And you question all of those things. But the bottom line to me, I was new in the community, and I took a different approach, and I said, whatever it's going to take, I am going to get involved, because that's where my roots come from. I was born and raised out in West Corinne, Utah. My family are cattle farmers and ranchers out there. And my family, my grandparents, my uncle and my brother have all served the state. And it's something that we were just instilled with as we were growing up. So from there, I took my wife's family owns a company called Honeyville Grain, or what's what it's known around here. We make your favorite Kodiak pancakes that everyone loves, and other things. And that was been my 25 years experience in my job, my career. We spent some time in California and then moved back to the community. And on moving back to the community, my wife is a teacher, and she teaches second grade at Majestic Elementary in North Ogden, the North Ogden area. And this is where the connection to Jennie comes in. So Jennie,
it's so great. So before Jen was teaching, or I guess in between teaching stints, she was a PTA president, and probably the best PTA president America has ever known. And I served with Jennie Ferry. She was the PTA president. I was on her board. We became great friends. We did a lot of great things with the school, great energy of community service. And so fast forward a couple of years, now it's that January of 2021. I'm sitting on my bed with my calendar, and I'm trying to kind of wrap my brain around what is this year going to look like. And I went through month by month. I've now got this new foundation I never intended to start, but we were onto something, and people liked what we were doing, and the feelings of patriotism and community engagement. So my goal was to try and have something each month. Can we just do something each month in the community, service of some kind? Went through the months, got down to September. And in January, I'm thinking ahead to September, it's 2021. That's when it occurred to me that it would be the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And so that's when I reached out to the sheriff, as I said. And once I had met with the county officials through that Zoom meeting, we set up an in-person meeting. We were allowed to meet in small groups. Everybody had their masks, whatever. We were there, and I offered to buy everybody lunch. I invited those county representatives, city representatives, police chiefs, and fire chiefs, and said, hey, if you come to lunch at this certain day, we'll meet in the basement of the Roy City Municipal Building. I'll buy you lunch. I'm going to give you this pitch. I think we should do something for 9/11. Somewhere along the line between scheduling that meeting and holding that meeting, I ran into you. I talked to you. I hardly knew you, but I knew Jen.
Yeah.
Somehow Johnny ends up invited to the meeting. He was not a mayor, a fire chief, or a member of a city council, but he was there. And I gave this real beautiful, impassioned purpose for why. Start with why we should do something. But at the point, I had no idea what we were going to do. I knew the why. I could deliver the why. Got this group full of local leaders saying, what should we do then? Johnny was in the room and really is the father of what is now this pop-up museum experience we have in the 9/11 project. So Johnny, talk about how your manufacturing trade show background led to what it is we've created with what we call the 9/11 project.
And I'm going to add, if you haven't seen this,
you've got to come.
You have to.
Yes.
So at that moment, I had been, as part of my career, we traveled quite a bit, and I had been back to New York several times. And if you've ever experienced the 9/11 Museum in New York, it's
Ground Zero.
It's an incredible experience, and you can't really. There's no way you can duplicate that or try to say that you're at that level. It just is so meaningful. It kind of asked the question of myself, where was I on 9/11? I was at a food show in Las Vegas, and the owner of our company knocked on my door early morning and said, I don't think we're going to the trade show. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, turn on your TV. And like many people in our community and in America, we watched as that second plane crashed into the building. And you remember that. And it was one of those moments that you never forget. And so when Jennie and I were chatting, and she mentioned, I'm going to go into this meeting, got any ideas? I reflected back to my experience of being at Ground Zero, the museum, and walking through it. And I wondered, will everyone get an opportunity to experience this. And the reality of it is there's a very few amount of people who will travel to New York and walk through and see all
Especially from Utah. I joke,
Right.
we go to Disneyland and Zion National Park, right? That's where we vacation, and nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of people in our community who have not been to, in person, Ground Zero.
So I started to ask, what do we have that could be useful for some type of a exhibit, a memorial, something that would be respectful, but also I really wanted to focus on two things: the education of the generation that did not experience 9/11.
Including our own children, your children and mine. Yeah.
I have 4 kids. None of them were alive at 9/11. And what they get is really what's at school, and it's very limited. And I think that I thought this would be something neat to have an experience where I want to make it interactive, where you go in and you're walking up to an image, a video, a sound, and you're turning to that generation and saying, this is why this is important to me. And that can connect, I think that connected. And so then I go back and I'm thinking from my background and what I love to do, which comes into the design and marketing and communications and things like that. And I said, what materials do I have available? So I actually made a call to the Smithsonian, to the 9/11 Museum, and to other groups that had things like images and videos, and then you can find all kinds of content online. And to take all of that and then put it into an interactive walkthrough experience. So what it became was a connection to a printing company that it's here locally called Advanced Graphics. They create these 4-foot by 8-foot printed boards. I needed a framework, so I contacted Home Depot and we started to talk through how we were going to build this framework. And what it became was this walkthrough interactive pop-up type museum. And I sat down at the computer and started to design. I ran the idea. Let's go back to how they actually got approval on this. I'm trying to explain this idea to the group that we first met with, and it's hard to catch the concept.
It was always, to this day, it's hard to explain, so we just have to show you. It's so immersive, we have to show you. It's a walkthrough experience, like Johnny said. Picture yourself being at IKEA,
Right.
and you can only go one certain way, right? You can't, if you go backwards, you're gonna get lost. And the idea is that you're coming in and wall to wall, you're seeing photos and videos. Johnny's quick to point out what's left from 9/11 are the photos and the videos. Not a lot of artifacts, not a lot survived the devastation that was the collapse of those towers. We have stories, we have 911 calls, we have news coverage. And so you walk through this exhibit and it's photo, video, it's larger than life, it is immersive, that's a great word for it.
Well, one of the things that I really like is that you started where you were.
Good point.
So
Because we start in our community.
Yeah.
And you tied it to that. And that's what, when I first walked in there, I thought, this really does capture.
You don't first walk into New York City.
You're looking at North Ogden, or you're looking at Logan, because I went to one in Logan and it was different. Right?
Yeah. And
whoever the host county is, we highlight them first. Yeah.
And this was key for the county, because that's where this part came in. When as we sat in that room, I'm looking around here and say, how can we then incorporate it locally? And the way to do that local was to also capture images and give a chance for, the goal of that was, how did we all feel on 9/12, the day after? Yeah. Because we're watching and the remains is all there, and you're watching, firefighters and police and military and the work that they're doing to respond. And we wanted to respond. And how are we going to respond was the next question. And that energy that I'm going to give blood, I'm going to send in a donation, I'm going to send water.
I'm going to go sign up at the food kitchen downtown and serve lunch or something.
Well, and that's what that's what really brought it together to me when I walked in there. I just thought, this is cool because you've now put me in that story.
Yeah.
Right. And all the kids coming now too, because they get to see what it was like when we were living that story.
So we highlight some of the things that were happening prior to 9/11. The news story, the big event the night before was Michael Jackson's birthday. And then 9/11 happened.
And it changed the world. It really did change the narrative.
And so by putting in, highlighting the cities and the pop culture, events that were happening, it really kind of sets the stage. And the moment that you hit, just like it did on the morning of 9/11, was you're in New York City It's as it was back in just before.
You're seeing photos and images of the old skyline with
Yep,
the
the skyline.
Twin Towers still in place.
And in the corner, we have our subway tunnel. And in this subway tunnel, it's the whole thing is professionally lit. We've got TV screens, we've got sounds and everything that are happening. But as you go over through this subway tunnel, you walk through the first sounds of 9/11, just like we all turned on our TV. Or if you were in New York, you heard them. And that's what you pick up first. And then the first thing as you walk out of that is the start of the first plane crashing into the building, and then the timeline that takes place throughout that day.
All through photo, video, and audio. So again, you're immersed in that experience, whether you lived it and you're remembering it, or you've never lived through it because you're too young.
This is something everybody needs to see.
Every age.
If you haven't.
Every age.
So, and that was the thing. Then you go to that. Well, this was great. Oh, well, you also should mention that feeling that you then capture is it's just as if it was happening on the day of 9/11.
You're right back.
You're right back there. You see the images, you're feeling it, and you're like, I want to do something more. Yeah. And so what we incorporated on the last part of this exhibit was the America side of things, of how we responded. The war on terror, we talk about that. We go in and it really highlights police, fire, medical, military, gratitude towards them, patriotism. What can I do to give back?
And then as you walk out of the pop-up museum, I tell people the exhibit is really a three-part thing. You've got this pop-up museum that's very emotional, very immersive, in a way draining, because you feel it and you're kind of left with that just feeling. Then you start to see the beautiful vistas of the American flag. Then part two is a resource room, for lack of a better word, where we bring in local organizations that offer services and give you, as the guest to the pop-up museum, we give you the opportunity on the spot to sign up to serve. Do you want to donate blood? We've got the blood bus for the American Red Cross in the parking lot. Do you want to sign up to go to the soup kitchen? We'll take your shift. Maybe you're going to become a mentor for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They've got a table right here. So you go through the exhibit, you then interact with that energy. And instead of that energy leaving you feeling like 9/11, like Johnny said, the energy gets channeled into 9/12.
Yes.
Yeah, what do I get to do?
What can I give? How can I set aside some of maybe my political or personal differences for just the sake of human kindness? Then the third part of the exhibit is always everyone's favorite. It's the touch-a-truck, the fire truck, the ambulance, the Humvee, the medical helicopter in the parking lot, where not only can you see the exhibit, see the vehicles, climb on them and touch them, but you get to interact with the professionals who work with them. So you get to shake the hand of a soldier or a police officer. You can try on the turnout suit of a firefighter and say, wow, thank you for your service. And all of a sudden those words that we've all said, thank you for your service, they just mean something so much richer. We're bringing young and old together in an environment where they can have that interaction, positive interaction with the police, with the military, with the medical and the fire professionals, grandparents showing their grandchildren pictures and images of what they remember so personally. Now you've bridged the gap between generations. You've bridged the gap between uniform and civilian. You've bridged the gap between left and right, this faith and that faith, this race and the other. You've come together and realized we're actually all people.
Yeah.
We're Americans. We're community members. We're brothers and sisters in all of humankind. And that energy then is channeled into service, into patriotism, into civic engagement. And it's really created something amazing. We thought we'd do it once, 20th anniversary. This is now the 5th time. And we just keep going.
And where are you going now?
Utah County.
Okay.
But it's worth the drive. So if you don't live in Utah County, drive wherever you need to get there, north or south. We have a group, we have certain school teachers who have come every year. Regardless of where their school is, they will get the bus, they will book the field trip, they will leave early in the morning if they have to. And they've come with us from Weber twice, Davis, Cache County, now down to Utah County.
Wow.
And looking ahead, you know, other communities, if they're interested in it, we're looking to build a calendar, a schedule out of who wants to host it. The real trick is the space. This thing is huge. What's our footprint that we need at a bare minimum?
200 by 100 feet.
We
So
need
you know where you're
200
going?
by 100.
Yeah, Spanish Fork Fairgrounds. Well, this year we'll be at the Spanish
Yeah.
Fork Fairgrounds.
And we've had
And
South
they've got
Jordan.
a nice indoor facility.
We'll be in
awesome.
the rodeo grounds.
Okay.
So we're often at the rodeo grounds or a county fair type of setup because there are just big empty buildings that are not used every day of the year. exhibit halls, and we're able to set that up. They have large parking lots because the parking lot's a huge component of it. But we've had South Jordan, St. George, a couple cities have expressed an interest. We've had people wanting it to come back to Davis or come back to the Logan area. And so we're looking to build a schedule and still kind of debating, does it become somewhere new every time? Or do we maybe pick a few anchor cities that we return to on a revolving schedule? We don't know. But this year, America 250 going into next year, not only is 2026 the 250th birthday of America, it's also the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So we'll be starting at that 20th anniversary. We're really excited already for next year, the 25th, and then who knows where it might go.
Thank you. Thanks both of you for coming, because for one, I really appreciate tying this story back to your story, right? Because
it's all interwoven.
Because it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, and then to your story and your story and all these overlapping pieces.
The thing is, though, it really does tie it back to what you're really trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's all about this country.
It's about helping people understand how good we've got it here and how difficult it's been to get to where we are. When I talk about patriotism, I'm not talking about bigotry or supremacy. I'm talking about a humble awareness of an accountability and a responsibility we have. And so if you can look at my family and say, wow, that Taylor family, they've been in the spotlight, they've been given so many gifts, they've been helped so much. Yes, I will then spend the rest of my life trying to pay it forward. We've been able to feel what the price of freedom really does cost. I hope most families never know to the personal level. I hope it doesn't come because of bloodshed from someone they love, but I still want them to know. I want them to feel. I want them to value what we have here in America, what the United States is all about, what the Constitution means, what these freedoms and responsibilities we have. So if we can do that through a pop-up museum, if we can do that in a classroom setting with our leadership program, if we can do that by carrying a giant flag in a city parade or flying it in a canyon or across right now Washington Boulevard in Ogden, Utah has a beautiful flag for Pioneer Day. Everything we do is to ignite patriotism. We didn't create patriotism. It's not my legacy. It's not even Brent's legacy. It's the legacy of the American story that we are building upon. We truly are standing on the shoulders of the giants who've gone before us. And we're trying to share that with young and old alike, rich and poor, black and white, whatever this or that you want to put in. I want to bring people together. I want people to see and to feel and to experience the beauty that is the American dream. And I want them to remember that we best live our dreams by helping those around us live theirs. That's what America's all about. Hope, opportunity, freedom, with responsibility and duty and a work that we all need to do. And I know Johnny would agree. We feel called to this, compelled to help and serve and lift where we stand. And it's been remarkable.
I need to give props to Jenny on this. So this idea, the concept of the 9/11 event is just one thing of the many things that the Major Brent Taylor Foundation does. But when this idea came about, the one thing that I didn't worry about was Jenny's ability to inspire and bring people out. And so Jenny took and she brought the people. This is an event that we put on free to the public. Anyone can attend. It's very age appropriate. It's family level. It's incredible that way. But we get over 500 volunteers at each of these events. We'll have 30,000 people that will go through this in Utah.
And half of them will be school kids on a bus that will come to a field trip.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's incredible of what Jenny has done, taking something a situation and a challenge that she has to deal with, but turned it to something that has inspired and made our community better.
And Johnny, thanks to you for bringing it to life. I joke, I can give a speech on any topic you want. I am not an artistic visual person. So again, I can give the why, but Johnny, the way that you've been able to sit down and take that why, take that energy, take everything I've been trying to say for now 7 years and put it into an experience. It's a trade show, right? It's an educational, inspirational trade show. And you can't really understand it until you see it. So come. We'll be in Spanish Fork this year, 2025, the week of 9/11, Wednesday to Saturday. We're open all day, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. School teachers, come bring your field trip. Youth leaders, business managers, CEOs, bring your team. You can help us build it on Tuesday. We build the entire thing in a day. Tuesday before the Wednesday that runs into Saturday. And then the best part is we take it down in less than 2 hours.
Yep.
We will plan this thing for years, months, agonizing over every detail. And we'll take it apart in 2 hours, and you can help with that too.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
thank you.
Bring your drill.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.